Guys, it finally happened. Something we've asked for ever since glaives were first introduced with the launch of Witch Queen has finally occurred, and that is a glaive in our kinetic slot. Even better though, it's a stasis glaive. For the first time ever, fellas, you can actually hold 3 glaives. 2 legendaries, both in your kinetic and energy slot, and then of course Winter Bite in that heavy slot. Now you may be asking, Cross, why in the world would I ever use 3 glaives? Hell, for the most part, I don't even want to use 1 glaive. I get it. It's a hard sell. However, today, I'm going to try to sell you on this stasis glaive, Rake Angle. Now keep in mind, this isn't the first stasis glaive. Winter Bite is stasis as well. It's just only present though in that heavy slot. Rake Angle though, being present in the kinetic slot, gives you the ability to actually view our guardians in our inventory screen holding a glaive, which no lie, actually looks pretty good. Now for those that are farming for this weapon, Rake Angle is dropping from this week's Nightfall, with the Adept version dropping from GMs. And despite this week's Grandmaster being more challenging than others, that being the Light Blade Strike, it is double loot, which literally means double everything, including double Adept drops for Rake Angle. With that being said though, let's talk about the perks on this weapon, the Godroll, and where this glaive stacks in the current meta. Now before we begin going through the perks, the archetype of this weapon is an aggressive glaive archetype. It's actually my more preferred archetype. Think things like Judgment of Kel'Garath. I just tend to like them more than our adaptive glaives, which is the more common type of glaive. Now starting with our third column, we have Pugilist, led from Gold, Impulse Amplifier, Overflow, Replenishing Aegis, and Rimestealer, which is that new stasis perk. In our fourth column, we have Swashbuckler, Unstoppable, Vorpal Weapon, Surrounded, Close to Melee, and Chill Club. Now in that third column, we've got some pretty good options. Impulse Amplifier has been a popular one on glaives where it massively increases projectile velocity and of course increases reload speed. You're talking 35% increased projectile velocity, not necessarily making it hit scan, but making it very fast, as well as plus 20 reload speed and a 0.85 times reload duration multiplier. Now Overflow is also present on here. We're picking up special or heavy ammo, automatically loads this weapon beyond normal capacity. This is 100%, with the enhanced version kicking it up to 120%. And again, the beautiful thing about this glaive, as well as pretty much every weapon right now, is that when it drops, you do have the ability to enhance its perks. Now, what this allows though on this weapon is the ability to bump that magazine size from a base of 4 to now 8. And when you tack on things like backup mags, as well as other mag perks, this can pick things up to around 12 to 14 with enhanced overflow. Now, back in the day, I used to love overflow because we used to actually have primary ammo bricks that would drop on the ground. I'm not saying overflow isn't a good perk, it's just not the go-to perk that it once was. Now, the topic of its magazine size, if you do get the Adept version of Rake Angle with extended mag, and you tack on things like Adept backup mag, this actually will increase our mag size to a whopping 16 when used with overflow. So again, it's not that you can't use overflow, but I would definitely commit there to the mag size, lean into that, maybe tack on some special finishers. That way you have a little more control over that proc. Now for my more defensive players, we have Replenishing Aegis. Blocking damage partially reloads this weapon from reserves, with the enhanced version of this shortening that cooldown. Now if you were to sit there and defend against say like a champion or a boss or going for like a res or something, it's not a bad option. But I think a lot of people, considering that this is a stasis glaive, are going to be looking at that new perk Rimestealer, especially in this given season with our artifact mods. Destroying a stasis crystal or defeating a frozen target with this weapon grants you Frostarm. Now this is great, especially right now. With the large amount of stasis artifact mods that we have at our disposal, many of us are rocking stasis builds, and Rimestealer is able to take full advantage of that. Now this takes us to our fourth column. We've got your run-of-the-mill perks, think things like Swashbuckler. Let me just say something about Swashbuckler. I wish Swashbuckler actually increased the melee damage of the glaive. You see, you can proc Swashbuckler times 5 with a single melee kill from Rake Angle here. However, that increase in damage, that 33.3% at times 5 stacks of Swashbuckler, only applies to the projectile damage itself. It's a huge bummer, man. I'm just saying, I think Swashbuckler would honestly be a pretty good perk for glaives. Now, another very common perk that people like on glaives is, of course, Close to Melee, where your glaive projectile final blows improves glaive melee damage. And this is really nice, as this is a 30% boost to your melee damage, which lasts for 10 seconds. A fairly easy perk to get going and to keep up. We also have perks like Unstoppable, where blocking damage with your shield increases projectile damage for a short time. This is roughly a 20% boost in damage just for simply blocking. You've got Surrounded as well, where the weapon gains bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity, which is pretty good. This is a 40% increase in damage when surrounded by 3 or more enemies, with the enhanced version going up to 47%, which is easy to do considering this is a glaive and you're already in close proximity army of enemies. But like Swashbuckler, you're in a situation where yes, you do get that big bump in damage, but it only applies to our projectile. So considering that you have all these damage perks, which yes, synergize, but don't really synergize as much as they could, this makes me want to take this glaive in another direction, more in that utility direction. And that brings us to the perk here that is extremely unique to this glaive, Chill Clip. Direct hits with the top half of the magazine causes a detonation that slows nearby targets. This is going to be your go-to trait for this glaive. And let me just say, Chill Clip has always been a great perk. Its ability to synergize with stasis, its anti-champion capabilities, with the ability to stun overload champions with its slow, unstoppable champions with its freeze and shatter. The utility of this perk has always been really solid, but present here on Rake Angle, it goes further than it does on other weapons, because it's that combination of not only Chill Clip, but now perks like Rimestealer. That stasis combination is present here. Two perks that are already extremely powerful in this sandbox. They synergize beautifully with stasis, and what they allow you to do is when you freeze a target or a group of targets with Chill Clip, you're able to immediately grant yourself frost armor when you defeat whoever it is you just froze. And the beautiful thing about Chill Clip on this particular glaive is that only 2 shots are required to freeze a target. Now, I do want to mention that the base mag is full, so that means you only have the first 2 shots at the top, leaving you very little wiggle room, which is why your mag being either a pendant mag or even extended mag with the backup mag mod is really important here. Anything that can get you to 6. This will allow you to squeeze out 2 freezes before needing to reload. And if you can get the adept version with the extended mag and an adept backup mag mod, this will kick you all the way up to 7, thus allowing you 1 more slow. The other thing that makes this glaive really good is that it is a vanguard weapon, which means it comes with the origin trait Stunning Recovery, where stunning a champion refills your magazine and it triggers health regeneration and improves recovery for a short duration. That's an origin trait that I think we've appreciated in the past, but it's always been the question of whether or not that particular weapon is going to have anti-champion capabilities for that given season. Rake Angle possesses the ability to counter champions no matter the artifact mods, with Chill Clip causing both slow and freeze, and you having the ability to stun and counter overload and unstoppable champions. Stunning Recovery, our origin trait here, will always be able to be procced. And you can see it in action, where when we stun, it immediately reloads the magazine to full. Plus, it gives us health regeneration. Now, one important thing to note is that you do not activate Chill Clip or Rimestealer off of the melee attacks, only from the projectile. It's not like Winter Bites, where you can run in there, get melee attacks, and apply slow and freeze. I wish it worked with our melee attacks, but that's not the case. We'll have to just wait for Cold Steel to be on a glaive. But there are a few things we can pair with those 2 perks in tandem to give our melee some additional functionality. If you're on stasis and you have Whisper Fractures, or shattering a frozen target with the melee attack grants a stack of frost armor, that will proc, as well as Whisper Reversal, where while you have frost armor, melee damage slows your targets. These actually work in perfect harmony with Rake Angle having Rimestealer and Chill Clip, as just about everything you do with this weapon will involve stasis in some way and will keep you in that loop. You freeze a target with a projectile, you then gain frost armor either from shooting the frozen target or meleeing them. Then while you have frost armor, you gain slow on your melee. I did some testing just to see how similarly we could get this to our heavy exotic glaive Winter Bites, and it takes roughly 10 melee hits while you have frost armor with Whisper of Reversal equipped to freeze Carl, or 1 shot with Chill Clip and 4 melee hits. And again, if you want to melee fast with any glaive, you want to be blocking and meleeing at the same time. This makes it go very, very fast, thus getting that application of freeze off much quicker. Now, the synergy doesn't even stop there. With the potential this weapon holds, we could take this perk combo even further when taking it into our stasis subclass, and especially when we begin pairing it with our exotics. For starters, on our Titan, this works phenomenally well with things like Icefall Mano in its most recent rework, that being the Glacier Guard perk. While you have a stasis super equipped, rapid stasis final blows grant frost armor. You heal a small amount whenever you gain frost armor, and it also replaces your class ability with a burst of stasis energy that freezes nearby combatants, slows nearby opponents, and grants you increased frost armor. You can attack things like Tectonic Harvest on, where shattering a stasis crystal or frozen target creates a stasis shard, and the shard, of course, grants us melee energy when picked up by ourselves or our allies. And while Tectonic Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards grants stacks of frost armor. You can tag this on with Diamond Lance, where shattering or defeating targets with stasis abilities or weapons will create a stasis lance. Then with Whisper Reversal, Whisper Fractures, Whisper of Rime, which increases our frost armor to ×8, and then throw in Whisper Refraction, where defeating slowed or frozen targets grants us class ability energy. You see the build here, guys. Everything is going full circle between this glaive, our stasis subclass, and our exotic here. With the simple activation of Glacial Guard, you're granted Frost Armor ×8 for 13 seconds, freezing everything around. You then start going ham with your glaive, shattering the frozen enemies, refreshing that Frost Armor even further, and each melee that you're now doing is applying slow, which is granting you 9%, 13%, 20%, 30%, 40%, and even 50% class ability per kill, depending on that tier of enemy, helping to refresh your Glacial Guard again, all while simultaneously applying Chill Clip, freezing those enemies, refreshing that Frost Armor again, and granting you small chunks of health, with Diamond Lances being the cherry on top. This is an extremely volatile build. Now, if you're not a Titan, you could rock this on Warlocks with things like Baldur's Wrath Weavers, which states that targets frozen by your Winter's Wrath super take increased shatter damage, and allies in range of your Winter's Wrath Shockwave and Frost Pulse gain Frost Armor and deal increased damage with stasis weapons. And granting these buffs to your allies grants you super energy. Now, that's in combination with Frost Pulse, where casting your Rift generates a shockwave that freezes nearby cabans, and Glacial Harvest, where freezing targets create stasis shards around the frozen targets, with higher tier cabans creating more shards. And while Glacial Harvest is equipped, picking up those stasis shards grants those stacks of Frost Armor. If we were to keep the same fragments as before, you would essentially get the same effect here, keeping up the loop with this glaive with both your melee and your projectiles, granting you Frost Armor and regenerating your class ability. The only difference is that with Baldur's, you're getting around 2 to 4 stacks of stasis weapon surge damage, which is always nice. Now, if you're not into Frost Armor, you don't care to be on a stasis subclass, but you still just want your own personal freeze ray, then I actually think an excellent alternative to pair with Chill Clip would be Overflow, as it does max out your max size by 100% and 120% with the enhanced version. Now, what makes this such a great pairing is that Chill Clip is procced when we are at 50% above our base magazine capacity. You see, direct hits apply 50 slow stacks for 4 seconds to enemies within 4 meters of the target. So any shot above 2 will apply slow. And as we mentioned before, with Overflow, you can potentially boost that max size to around 14 to 16, depending on whether or not you have the Adept version. The ag control potential is outrageous here with the amount of ammo that you have, and you're essentially able to just constantly slow and freeze everything without having to reload, while also being able to block damage as well. Now, interestingly enough, if you don't have Overflow, but still want that obnoxious magazine size, you can gain a similar effect with Trident Vice on Hunter, which increases glaive reload speed and melee damage when surrounded. You see, glaive melee final blows overflow around to the mag, and glaive projectile final blows detonate in an explosion. Now, this will grant you 1 round every melee kill with your glaive with no cooldown, and will allow you to overflow your magazine up to 100% above your current max. Similar to Overflow. What this allows you to do, though, is to keep Chill Clip up without having to reload, as well as gain 100% melee damage bonus when surrounded in an explosion, up to 350 damage, matching the weapon's damage type. Now, sadly, this damage does not apply a secondary burst of slow, nor does it apply any subclass verbs. It's just pure elemental damage, but something my hunters can take advantage of. Guys, I know there are other perks present here that, yes, you can consider, whether it's close to melee or Swashbuckler maybe. You could do that Replenishing Aegis unstoppable combo to regenerate your ammo while blocking and simultaneously getting that 20% damage to your projectile. And I know someone's going to say, Cross, why not replenishing with Chill Clip? You can utilize it against bosses or even ad clearing, but the stagger from the slow and freeze ends up making them not shoot me and essentially just wastes the shield. I think the best thing on this glaive is that Rimestealer Chill Clip combo. That's literally what this glaive is meant for. And when comparing it across the board to all of our other glaives, that's what makes Rake Angle special. So guys, get your hands on this one. Many folks saw a glaive as our Nightfall weapon and immediately checked out, but this is a utility weapon. It possesses something here that beautifully synergizes with some of my favorite stasis builds, and I think it will serve you well. If you want to check out our guide on how to do the Grandmaster Nightfall this week, we'll have that link down below. It is a bit tougher with the modifiers, but again, you're getting double loot, double everything, double Ascendant shards, double Cipher, double Strange coins, double Adept weapons, and I do believe the Adept version of Rake Angle is worth it. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.